there's footage and records of objects in the skies that we don't know exactly what they are.
Intelligence representative at a high level from the US government is saying publicly, we are not alone.
Greetings, beautiful people, marvelous citizens of the planet Earth. Welcome to the Lucid Lens. I'm back, baby. Yeah, so came out of retirement for a little bit. Mostly because I was fuming after this, I love how Ross Coulthart puts it, the drone debacle. But it was John Kirby's statements at the White House press briefing the other day that had me fuming. So let's see. We can't attribute any of the sightings. We can't corroborate any of them. So citizens of Jersey and New York and the rest of the world, you're just seeing shit. And we haven't had any incursions into any sensitive areas. Okay. Well, 2 Jersey military installations beg to differ. And a New Jersey senator literally rode around with the local sheriff to capture their own footage, checked against known aircraft in the sky, and they are actually seeing drones and other anomalous objects. So the sightings are real, and they are over sensitive areas. So John Kirby, what's the deal, man? Look, I know he's just a mouthpiece. He's not a gatekeeper. He's just kind of reading off a script, right? And he has not shied away from talking about UAPs in the past. If you remember just a year and a half, 2 years ago, John Kirby stood up on that very same platform and said, yes, UAP, we take them very seriously. They have been known to impact our training ranges. So you've already had acknowledgement, which makes this all even more peculiar. Maybe this is just a little bit ahead of their script. So the other thing, the mothership terminology coming out the other day was very interesting. I think it was a Jersey senator, I believe, that made the claim that Iran deployed a mothership last month, which was quickly shot down by the Pentagon, saying no, there's no mothership off the coast. There's no way they would have a mothership off the coast. Do you know how advanced the radar and other sensors are that we have? We'll get to that in a bit. But so this is not just going on in Jersey. I believe it was one of the congressmen of Jersey who stated, I believe this all started in Morris counties where the first reports came from. And as of a few days ago, it's in all 21 counties of New Jersey. And numbers aren't decreasing in those original counties, which means there are more drones appearing, I say drones, but stick with me here, every night. So Ross Coulthart has revealed that his sources are reporting this is, in fact, worldwide. He's had reports from Russia, from China, from Europe, Australia, New Zealand, India, and across the continental United States. I haven't heard anything in South America, but I can imagine they're always having reports there as well. How far across America? Well, as I'm working out this morning, my wife is headed to go take the dog for a walk, and she casually says to me, oh, hey, one of my friends, her husband saw a UFO last night on his way home from work. See ya. I'm like, wait, what? I need more information. What did it look like? Where did he see it? How was he driving? So I'm still waiting on more information, but it actually was on Georgia 400 north of Atlanta, and it's actually about where I saw, I had my own sighting about 15 years ago, except mine was during the middle of the day. So that's not it. An hour later, I got a text from my mom, who also lives around Atlanta, and she came across a post on her county's Facebook group, which has like 100,000 people in it, and people are reporting drones and orbs and other anomalous things just over the last couple of nights. Then you've got some pushback folks saying, oh, it's military training, it's helicopters, and the pictures would beg to differ. And so whatever this is, it's all over. But we knew that. The question is, what is it? Well, according to Jeremy Corbell's intelligence sources, while some of the sightings are mundane, ordinary objects we are familiar with, others are indeed anomalous. Let's take a listen to Jeremy on his latest weaponized episode.
So here's what I know. And this is from personal contacts. This is not from me reading or looking at videos. I mean, I got hundreds that have come in from New Jersey just in the last week in my emails. There are people that I know, that I trust durationally, that have direct experience right now in real time with defending sensitive installations for the United States that are affected by this. And absolutely, some of what's in the sky is absolutely explainable and traditional as far as shape and as far as propulsion. And remember, none of these things are really doing anything that are in the five observables. Really, they're not. They're not doing like crazy movements that I've heard. So that's one aspect. The other aspect is people that are analyzing right now the actual military FLIR footage, which tons of it exists, of these objects. There are some that are of absolutely non-traditional shape, as well as the words were unconventional propulsion. I don't know what that means. That might be the loitering time. It might be the fact that some seem to be going out to sea. That, here's the deal. Whatever's going on, it's being allowed to happen. So this comes to me from people that deal specifically with national security and defense of our installations. We have the ability to track and trace anything in aerospace within vicinity.
Supposedly.
What's that?
Yeah. Supposedly.
No, we do.
Right?
Absolutely, we do. Now, sometimes things get through, and we could talk about that, but absolutely we do. Think about it. The Tic Tacs in 2004, all of that was being monitored by satellite, not by the ships, and even the Spy 1, which only goes to a scan volume of 80,000 feet. You and I know that to be true, but that's not like in the public domain. Well, this information I'm getting is not in the public domain yet. And people are like, dude, we don't know, even the traditional ones. We don't know, the origin of them. It doesn't mean that it could be very prosaic, but the disinformation, misinformation, and the vague, the idea of creating confusion. That's why you have local law enforcement looking to FBI being like, yo, what the fuck? Help me with this. And that's also why you got FBI going to local law enforcement, being like, what's going on? What can we do on the ground? You guys got some resource, I don't know, like big ass drones. Like, what can we do here? So you're getting all this like extra agency, like between different agencies, looking at it, being like, what's going on? So George, here's my only understanding. My only understanding is some are very traditional and some are not. On film, definitively not.
So while both the White House and Pentagon are doing the usual nothing to see here, guys, you're all just imagining it, it's swamp gas, drones, all while the local news, police, other local authorities, mayors, congressmen and women, and now senators keep pressing the issue because they're not satisfied with that federal response, which is basically, you're all mistaken. Even the multiple military bases who have reported unknowns over their restricted airspace. Nothing to see here, guys. You're on your own. However, while John Kirby put out his adorable opening statement dismissing all of this like he's stuck in the 1960s, at least one reporter in the room had a spine. I believe it was a Fox reporter, and she stood up like a boss and pushed back against every single one of his remarks. Let's go ahead and take a listen.
Video of these systems.
I'm not aware that we have U.S. government produced imagery ourselves, but as I said in my opening statement, we have certainly done thorough analysis of the existing imagery.
Like from people's cell phones that we're seeing. Basically, with what you're looking at, how can you credibly tell people that there is no public safety threat, there's no national security threat, that there's no reason to believe that a foreign government is involved?
Because the analysis thus far, in an investigation that is ongoing, has not revealed any national security or malicious intent or criminal activity. But, Jackie, I would remind you, we're at the beginning here, not the end. there's a lot more work to be done, and we're working closely with state and local authorities to gain more information. I would argue that we're moving pretty well here with a sense of energy to try to figure out what we can do to learn more about this. We're still in the middle of an ongoing investigation, and I'm up here explaining to you and let you know what we know so far, what we believe so far. If information comes to light that changes that characterization, then my goodness, we'll be the first ones to let you know. But right now, there's just no indication that this is some sort of foreign malign activity or, in fact, even criminal.
Well, what I don't understand is, this has been happening since late November. I don't know that the law enforcement officials or residents in New York and New Jersey, or even the Democratic senators who wrote to Director Ray Mayorkas and the FAA administrator today would think that this has been handled with a sense of urgency. But that being said, has the President or the Secretary of Defense issued any guidance to NORTHCOM or military installations to act on these systems if they're deemed to be a threat in any way? And what's the benchmark for that determination?
So 2 thoughts. First of all, you're right, late November. It is now, the 12th of December. So I think it shows that we're moving on with this, and we're going to stay on it. So I want to disabuse you of any notion that we're not taking this seriously, because we are. I can also tell you that if the President, as Commander-in-Chief, believed, based on the information that he'd been given, that there was a national security threat at play here, or even a public safety threat at play here, he would issue the appropriate directives to not only law enforcement, but perhaps even the military if that was needed. I want to go back to something I said at the top. There has been no evidence of any of this activity in or near restricted spaces.
That's not what the senators said in the letter. They said, in fact, that they've been observed maneuvering their critical infrastructure, sensitive locations, including reservoirs and military installations, and cited a concern from law enforcement about public safety threats because a medevac helicopter was prevented from transporting a seriously injured patient for care because of the presence of these drones.
I stand by my opening statement.
Can you make that make more sense? Because I think people in New York and New Jersey see drones the size of an SUV over their house every night and think that that doesn't make any sense.
Certainly I understand why people would be looking at this and being concerned about it. We're concerned about it too, which is why we have the Department of Homeland Security and the FBI, my goodness, looking at this. And we're taking it seriously. We understand that people are concerned. We understand that they got questions. We got questions too. And we're working hard to get the answers to that. What I can tell you as we sit here today, at 2:16 in the afternoon on the 12th, is we haven't seen any indication thus far that there's a public safety risk, and we haven't seen.
The government know what they are.
We are still investigating this. I can't tell you definitively. I cannot characterize for you definitively what these sightings are. I can just go back to what I said at the opening. We've looked at the imagery. We can't corroborate some of the reported sightings through our own expert analysis using sophisticated detection techniques, but that doesn't mean that, we're putting our pen down here this afternoon and calling it a day. We're going to keep at this.
What are you doing though?
We are continuing to investigate it, as I said in my opening statement, 2 federal agencies, as well as the United States Coast Guard and state and local law enforcement officials, which we are staying in close touch with.
So the official response is it's not U.S. military tech. It's not a foreign adversary. It's not hobbyists. That doesn't leave much left. So let's talk about capabilities here. We've got incredible radar capabilities to detect off the coast. The NRO and NGA, National Reconnaissance Office and National Geospatial Intelligence Agency, where David Grush worked, have the capability to track objects the size of a soccer ball 10,000 miles away in space. Back in 2024, the Tic Tac, so 20 years ago, talking 20-year leap in technology, we were able to detect the Tic Tac coming from 80,000 feet down to the ocean. So whatever this is, the DoD, parts of the DoD, know exactly what it is and where it's going and where it's coming from and potentially who it belongs to. So where do we go from here? Well, on Reality Check, Ross Coulthart spoke with Jerry and John Tedesco of Nightcrawler Research, who have been capturing UAP footage off the coast of Long Island for, I believe, the last year or so. And they've got an incredible setup. I believe it cost them around 50 or 60 grand to put together. All sorts of night vision and detection equipment. And they've been in contact with federal authorities about what they've been capturing. They spoke with both the FBI and Homeland Security about these recent sightings, stating from the federal authorities there is genuine concern from them. Not the guys, the civilians out there capturing. The federal authorities have conveyed their concern to the civilians. One of their federal contacts put together a list of 10 questions they say the American public should be asking authorities. Let's take a listen to these questions from an unnamed federal agency.
What are those questions?
Okay, so we reached out to some contacts we had in some of the federal and state agencies, and these are individuals that had some concerns. They felt they were kind of in the dark themselves. And let's see if I can raise these questions. They put a list of 10 questions together that they say the American public should be asking the authorities and their governors. The first one is, how does the government know that these craft are human-made drones?
Good question.
Second, how does the government know the intent of these craft? Third,
Good.
Why has the government declined to take action against these craft? Four, have these craft similarly affected adversarial nations?
And they have?
Okay. 5, other than seeing something and saying something, what should the general public do if these craft engage them? There's an unverified report of one hovering over a car, interfering with the car's digital equipment like its clock. And that's something they shared.
Mm-hmm.
6, what are the potential consequences of taking action against the drones or drone-like entities, like shooting it with a gun? 7, do these craft emit radiation, and are there affordable and accessible sensors or detectors a person can purchase for themselves? 8, have any of these craft been seen emitting substances like angel hair?
Wow.
And the 9th question was, what should be the response of first responders should they come across these craft that land or crash? The last question is, what first responders should do if let's see, if they crash or land, but let's see. Okay. A final question would be to ask why there is no coordinated federal preparedness guidance or direction for municipalities nationwide, only reactive, isolated responses. And
So gents, can I just ask you this? Those are questions that have been asked by somebody in an agency that you don't want to name,
mm-hmm.
that should be being asked by the public. Is that a correct representation?
Yes. That's correct.
So what that's telling me is that there are people in government agencies, and I won't try and name them, who are genuinely concerned that they're not getting answers.
Exactly.
All signs point to UAP, at least at the heart of this. Sure, with increased eyes on the sky, there are bound to be reports and video of helicopters. I've seen a few of those. Aircraft. Sure, I've seen a few lined up, ready to land in New York, various places. But at the heart of this, confirmed by many, many sources, there are indeed UAP. So why do some of these UAP potentially look and sound like drones? Well, there's a few options there. Some reports could actually be human-made drones that are sent up to chase down these anomalous objects, the orbs that many people are seeing. But we need to pan back and take a look at the history of UFOs, namely the work of Jaques Valle. If we look at Passport to Magonia and other books he's written, even looking at the cover of Passport to Magonia, there's a trickster element with the phenomena. It's often masquerading as many things and changes appearance based on the current collective consciousness of humanity. It appears in forms we're familiar with, but even different forms to different people at the same time. Gary Nolan and Bernardo Kastrup have both stated the same. NHI appeared as the gods in ancient times, the fairies of the forest. They became the airships in the 1800s before we had anything that flew. Flying saucers, Tic Tacs, the flying butane tanks, which may very well be the same as the Tic Tacs. And possibly as drones today. They show up with what the collective consciousness is familiar with. Perhaps to relate to what we already understand. Maybe not to frighten us too much. There's a history of mimicry with the phenomena, with reports of craft morphing between shapes, and even into aircraft, and helicopters. But also, if we look at a case from Skinwalker Ranch, I believe George Knapp's Skinwalkers of the Pentagon covered this one, where DEI agents all reported seeing a different object from the same event. I believe it was 5 or 6 agents. Some of them saw a triangle craft, some saw an orb. So what's going on here? If it is indeed behind NHI behind the anomalous sightings, where is this leading? You may be aware of Cliff High, whose early AI model predicted this so-called melee in the skies, which a lot of people were like, okay, sure, laughed at it maybe. It predicted increased sightings starting right about now. And this was made, I believe, back in 2009, if I'm not mistaken. You can check me on that in the comments, though. That seemed to happen right on cue. Now, and regardless of what you think about remote viewing, the Farsight remote viewing group, led by Emory professor Courtney Brown, predicted back on the 13th of November a massive increase in sightings in the coming months, stating that the ETs want us to see them. That prediction appears true as well. And if you've dipped your toes into the deep end of the channeling community, folks like Darryl Anka, who channels the collective entity Bashar, have been predicting for years that open contact is nearly upon us. And if you remember former CIA agent John Ramirez, this is where that 2027 date comes from. A lot of channelers, folks who have been looking at this stuff, 2027, that's the date. So we're just potentially 2 years away. Could this acceleration be in preparation for the population for that inevitable contact? Getting us used to seeing weird shit in the skies, questioning everything. I mean, the cover-up is just so ridiculous at this point. It's like, I think they're begging people to ask questions. They're leaving so much room for interpretation. I mean, nobody trusts the government anyway, but at this point, I mean, starting with, Arrow and its nonsense and the bogus report they put out last year, or was that this year? I can't even remember. Everything they've done has been ridiculous. Although I think the new guy will probably be the face of Arrow when things come out. So could this all be accelerating and preparing us for open contact? It could be. I want to know what you guys think about all this. Let me know down in the comments, and if I don't make another video before the end of the year, happy holidays, happy new year. Be good to each other, be good to yourselves, and I'll see you on the flip side. Peace.